To take advantage of our products provider, let's for example go to the product detail widget, to the product detail screen, where we also need product data. And there I get the product ID. Now, thanks to us providing our products up here, our products object, we can, since product detail screen is of course also a child of the change notifier provider here, we can tap into our provider data here as well. So here where I get my product ID, I can also use provider auth, now use the angle brackets to be clear that I'm interested in an instance of the products class. And therefore, let's of course add an import here at the top. Import from providers, product start, and then forward the context, which is our communication channel, so to say. To use provider, I also need to import the provider package. So let's import package provider Dart. And with that provider import added, now here we actually can get access to our products data as well. And we can now find a product with that ID there. We can simply chain another method, because this here gives us access to the whole products object. We know we get items there. And on the items, if I want to find one with a specific ID, I can get the first where a specific condition is met. That condition is expressed as a function where we get every item, so every product in our case here. And then I want to return true if that ID of the product I'm looking at is equal to the product ID I got here through my route. With that, I know which product was loaded. So here I have my loaded product in the end. And now I can use that loaded product title here to output that title. And hence, now if I tap on a product here, we see the right title in the app bar. So this is how easy you can now use your centrally managed data and tap into it. Now actually here, however, we can improve two things. One of the things is that we want to move as much logic as possible out of our widgets into, for example, our provider class here. So this filtering for ID here would be better done inside of that class, where we can of course simply add a new method. We can add a method which returns a product in the end, which I'll name findById. And in there, I want to get an ID as an input, as an argument. But then I return underscore items first where, with my logic which I just defined before, where I compare the ID of each product to the ID I'm getting as an argument. So therefore this will return an item which it identified, and the heavy lifting, the core logic, is hidden away here in my provider class, and my widget can therefore stay pretty lean. Here on the products object I'm getting from my provider, I can simply call findById, forward that product ID, and we're done. And now this is a bit leaner here, and which is something you generally want to have. You want to have lean widgets and have your logic somewhere else in the app, like here in the provider class. Now in the product detail screen, there is another thing we can improve, and that is here. With that provider auth thing, I mentioned that I set up a listener which reruns this build method whenever products change. Now you could argue that here on the product detail screen, there's little that could change about products which needs this widget to rebuild. Maybe we added a new product somewhere else in the app. Well, that shouldn't impact this screen if it's still somehow visible and can be seen by the user. So I don't really want to rebuild this widget when my data changes here. Instead, I just want to tap into my data here one time when this screen is built for the first time and never really update whenever something changes. And for that, this auth method here on provider gives you a special argument, the listen argument, which you can set to false. Now, the default is true, and if it is set to true, which you don't need to do because, well, it's the default, then the build method of the widget in which you're using provider auth will rerun whenever the provided object, so in this case the products object, changed. The object we're providing here. So if this would change, or the data in there would change, so if we call notify listeners in there, then all widgets that use provider auth would rebuild. With listen false, this widget here will not rebuild if notify listeners is called, because it's not set up as an active listener. And that, of course, is something you should do if you only need data one time, you just want to get data from your global data storage, but you're not interested in updates, then you don't need to listen. Of course, it's a different thing here in the products grid. There, I want to rebuild my grid when I have a new product or when my products change in some way. So here, I definitely don't want to set listen to false, but I want to listen to changes. With this, we started working with the providers package, and we were using our providers package at least a little bit already. Thus far, however, only for getting some dummy data, of course. Let's next manage the favorite status of products, because that's something where the provider package can help us as well.